but we're hanging on.
Welcome or bienvenue. Welcome once again to another property live stream. This is, of course, IPSA Kind of Magic, the Independent Personal Search Agents Association, currently chaired by Hamish McClay, and today's special guest, friend of the show, Silas J. Lees of WigglyWam, a person who overviews the whole of the property industry and therefore can come up with very sage advice based on that. The shows we run, their purpose is to create critical thinking, chat, conversation, and to hopefully help you guys out there to be forearmed when it comes to either choosing property, engaging in searches, or in engaging in specialists to help you achieve those goals. Today's topic is quite an interesting one. It is paying to comply. Which is about the wake-up call to the handbook. And Hamish, as ever, Hamish, would you start us off?
I would indeed, and sort of welcome to you all, those of you who are IPSA members. And we forgot for the first two programs of this year, or podcasts of this year, to actually send out to our IPSA members. So apologies to any IPSA members there.
Oh.
But we go much, much further afield than IPSA members because we get onto several different platforms. Silas's platform, for example, a UK Homes Network. We get on, and we're out on LinkedIn, of course, at the moment, as well as our very own sort of YouTube channel, Spilling the Proper Tea. But this particular handbook is something which IPSA members might sort of turn around and say, or members outside of IPSA, well, what's that got to do with what we do? Because we don't use the money lender's handbook. But it's very, very important because we are independent search agents, as we actually sort of say. And it is when a solicitor is carrying out the work that we've sent them the work, they're carrying out the work on getting everything sort of resolved in terms of their particular client. They do need to check out on the money lender, well, I call it the money lenders, it's the mortgage lenders handbook these days, that is available through UK Finance. Now, UK Finance had suggested at one particular sort of stage that they were going to start charging for it. And if they started charging for it, you think about how many transactions that, a solicitor would actually go through. To charge for that would be really an additional cost, which was totally unnecessary because the information is already there. The mortgage lenders themselves update that information. They update it on a regular basis. Now, one of the great things, actually, if some members have access to something which is called the LC5, which people don't necessarily know, but it's a very, very good, actually, way of checking up what has changed in the money lender's handbook. And that costs less than £10. So it's worth checking out on. But if that's going to cost you £50 to do each time, because what you want to do when you've done all your work and you think everything's sort of going fine, you want to make sure that money lender, because some things will change overnight. And if they change it overnight and you don't have that direct sort of contact with it, you could end up finding that everything's ready to go forward. And then money lender turns around and says, no, we've changed it. You can't actually borrow money now. And that, of course, makes a significant difference. It could be the percentage deposit. It could be something the government's brought into change. But the beauty of it is the money that the solicitor is using due diligence to actually get that information, get that sort of detail together. Now, from our perspective, as IPSA members and those of you looking in, why would we actually mention it? Now, it doesn't mention that the lenders, the mortgage lenders, will actually lend money if a search comes from an IPSA member. However, what we need to remember, and this is the important thing, in order to become an IPSA member, we've got to get through the IPSA gateway. We've got to pass we've got the past certain sort of questions and an interview to actually sort of become members of it. But we also have to be regulated by the PCCB to become a member. So we're all members. So you look in the handbook and it will actually sort of say this lender will lend money to somebody who is PCCB regulated, or they're regulated by a certain body. They might not necessarily mention the PCCB. So this is why this is quite a useful, if you like, sort of podcast to be able to remind people. It doesn't mention IPSA, but it does mention what we all IPSA members have to have passed through to actually get into that sort of. But as I said, the challenge that would be if they introduced this, it would cause absolute sort of mayhem in many, many circles. And of course, Silas had looked at the bigger picture. So it's a good idea to bring him in to sort of let us know what his feelings are.
Silas, it seems to me that within an ever-changing property landscape, having some sort of handbook, at least a basic series of minimum expectations, is a good thing.
100% it is, Gareth, and let's not forget that every conveyancing solicitor, when they've had to handle a mortgage application on a purchase of a property, has always had to refer to the mortgage lender handbooks for the terms and conditions that surround that particular loan, what's expected of the conveyancer in that transaction. And one of the insidious things about this is that, as Hamish touched on, UK Finance suggested they were going to just levy a £50 plus VAT fee per user to access this document, which has been free for decades. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but if you think that there were 1.2 million transactions last year, according to Zoopla, and let's say 80% of those require a mortgage, so around a rough 1 million transactions a year, that's £50 million. But it also doubles up if you've got 2, 3, 4 practitioners in the conveyancing firm that have to access the mortgage lender's handbook, and this number soon starts to add up, that you end up with 50 to 100 million plus being sucked out of the conveyancing sector. Now, one of the biggest challenges for people trying to move home is that they constantly look to the conveyancing solicitors as to why are there so many delays? Why are there so many delays? We need to speed up the housing market, etc. But when you're pulling 100 million out for UK Finance, and you're pulling 400 plus million to pay estate agents referral fees, plus the cost of professional indemnity insurance, overhead, staffing costs, which are the highest in many sectors owing to the fact that they're professional people, all of a sudden you can see that the business model of conveyancing, frankly, just doesn't work. And the danger with these sorts of moves is that it concentrates power in the hands of the few, which leaves consumers with less choice. It makes the business model less profitable, which removes all incentive for conveyancers to move faster. So this move by UK Finance directly impacts the consumer, whether they realise it or not, because ultimately that fee is going to be passed on to the consumer.
It seems to me that the sooner we straighten it out so that there's a consistent way forward, the easier it's going to be. But there seems to be some resistance to it.
Yeah, so it seems to me that from what I've seen online recently, the UK Finance quickly backed down from this proposal. But as we're trying to get the point across, is that this is the direction of travel for so many elements within the home buying and selling process. It seems to be that conveyancers are very much a target for revenue generation. And I've seen business models where they're charging £395 plus VAT for a conveyance, which I've no idea how they can afford to do that job for that level of fee. I've seen referral fees of £700 being paid to estate agents, again, absolutely decimating margins. And I think it's time, the sort of wider picture is it's time for the conveyancing and the legal sectors to stand up and request more from its regulators, from the people that are supposed to be overseeing the goodwill in the profession, because time and time again, that just isn't happening. And that, I think, is causing a lot of stress for law firm owners, for people on the front end of conveyancing. I've heard solicitors conveyancing solicitors that are dealing with up to 200 transactions at any one time. Now, you imagine the stress of trying to manage 200 transactions, buyers, sellers, estate agents chasing you, you've got lenders to deal with, and you're doing that on a fixed fee for 700 quid. It's just madness. I don't know how that business model can work. So I think fees need to go up within the profession. I think the conveyancing profession needs to come together under a banner which is driven for change that is good for them, not just everybody else that's feeding off them.
Wow. So, Hamish, how does this affect your position?
Well, quite significantly, because we actually feel, as members of IPSA, that we can offer our clients a service. We want to try and take the time out, reduce whatever stresses we can. And in fairness to those that we have the good working relationship with, we're able to establish very early on exactly what it is they want. And it just runs so smoothly. And like Silas says, you don't want these things to jump in and bite you as you're actually going through it. All of a sudden, this change to actually sort of come about. We want to make this solicitor's life easy. And if we can just go through on a straightforward basis, even to offer the access to the LC5 that we mentioned, because that can be ordered through each of the individual sort of members as well, because we've actually got that on board too. But the fact that they've got access to it does mean straight away they don't have to come back to us and sort of say, oh, I'm sorry, that lender doesn't actually say that they will accept regulated searches. In actual fact, 98% of all of the lenders, we were speaking about residential now, this is important, residential lenders, 98%, in fact, I think it's probably slightly higher now. I mean, okay, the Bank of Dubai, you can't, or the Bank of India, you might not be able to get them to. They might want to get, they call it official, it'll be a council search. And as we've spoken about before, many people realize that in actual fact, ordering a search directly from the council, what they call an official search, can actually be damaging to the information that you're actually receiving, put down more work, take longer, and in actual fact, not give the sort of full picture either. So particularly with many authorities now, we hear this, it's held up elections, hasn't it? They'll be turning to unitary authorities. All of these complications coming in, we want to simplify it for that solicitor. And certainly that the mortgage lenders handbook does make it much better if we just sort of say, hey, look, this isn't something you should pay for. It's all done. The mortgage lenders themselves have done the updating. They're the good guys of the piece. Why should somebody, I think we'll have a bit of money for this, just be able to sort of do that, which does interfere with the smooth flow of everything.
Silas, is this situation now, this nexus point, is this something that's going to be a defining moment in the industry, do you think, where we come together and we decide as one, this is the direction we're taking, or is it still splintering?
That is a wonderful question, Gareth. And in my humble opinion, having looked intensely at the market, what is needed for the industry is very strong leadership. And I'm not seeing that, unfortunately, coming through from many of the sectors or many of the organizations that are involved within the sector. There needs to be a rallying war cry, if I can use that term, from those conveyancers who are really good at what they do. They're absolutely fed up of the bargain basement conveyancers dragging everybody down. I mean, literally just this week, there was a conveyancing practice not far from me, up in Sheffield, that has closed its doors. Staff turned up on Monday morning to a note on the door that said, we are basically closed for business. You've no longer got a job. None of the hundreds, if not thousands, of transactions that are going on know where they stand because their solicitors have just disappeared. That it's a major issue that this is happening more and more in the sector because the business model doesn't work, and we need strong leadership to represent conveyancers and solicitors' interests. But coming back to the point that Hamish was making earlier, there needs to be a very smart thought process around where the data is coming from to serve the consumer. So to use IPSA as an example, when those IPSA searches are coming in, that is refined data. That is data that has been checked over. And the liability for that data, which is important from the solicitor's point of view, is on the IPSA member themselves, not the law firm. And that removes a huge chunk of liability and time and effort to refine and process that data from the solicitor's desk. So they are able to transact more efficiently through the entire process. So with smart choices and the right leadership under the right banner to separate out the bad actors in the profession from the really good solicitors, I think, yes, we can see change. Who's going to lead that? Which banner are they going to unite under is a different story. And that's something that I think the profession needs to reflect quite hard on, and not just dismiss it and get their heads down and think we'll just get on with their conveyancing work, because there is a brighter future that exists. And it's unfair to suggest that the consumer will not pay more, because time and again, survey after survey has suggested that consumers want speed and they want efficiency and they want less stress and they want less risk. All of that can be packaged up and priced accordingly, but not if the industry is going to continue to bury its head and just accept things like the fees for accessing the Mortgage Lenders Handbook.
Hamish, it appears to be that we are on the crux of something that could be either foreshadowing a more solid, put together marketplace. It just worries me that this is supposed to be a regulated market, and yet what things like Silas does that will go by without any teeth to prevent it happening again.
Well, I mean, the sad thing is that many actual searches go to solicitors, and they are not regulated searches. I'm not suggesting, it's a little bit like relate this to my father. Come the end of the war and sort of all the rest of it. I mean, when you've been flying around in Lancaster and Wellingtons and dropping bombs all over the place, and you've been driving a car, you didn't have to pass the driving test. They assumed you could actually drive the car. So you didn't have to take all that test and all the rest of it. And it's a little bit like that. There is people out there that have been producing searches, and we've got a few people that have been producing searches going way back to the 80s, as we know, if people have listened to sort of historically what we're doing. But they have made sure that they have become, with their organizations or as individuals, they are PCCB regulated. Some people haven't done that. So there's some great people out there. Don't get me wrong. There's some great people out there who they themselves aren't necessarily regular. But there are an awful lot of others who are not regulated and therefore are not 100% reliable. They do it purposely. It's rather back to that same thing. You don't know what you don't know.
Well,
we've got training facilities and we update people regularly within IPSA. And this, our IPSA members will tell you this. This is one of the great advantages of coming along to those sort of get-togethers, because we get some updates from people outside of what we do directly. We get solicitors speaking to us. We get people like Kate Faulkner speaking to us, saying this is what's going on with the industry. So we're constantly getting updates, and any changes and things we can advise members of. And so with regulated people are far more likely to give the information that solicitors require. And I think the last thing we want is unnecessary interference. And this is something that Silas did actually point out. It's something else that's being added in by somebody thinking, oh, we could get some money out of this. Our poor old buyers and sellers, they're the ones that are getting lumped with the cost of all of this.
Right.
So we can streamline it, make it effective. It speeds it up. More importantly, we can explain to the buyer or the seller exactly what is going on, and we can keep them up to speed with what's going on, because that information is, as the Silas said, we get together collectively, right information from the right people, and everybody can actually sort of see where we are at whatever time. It's just a lovely, simpler flow of things, rather than having bits from here, bits from over there, and then bits from, oh, that's coming from, it's not even coming from somebody UK. It's sort of coming from somebody abroad somewhere who's actually carried out the sort of work to put the search together. So there's all sorts of variances that we need to take care of, but we want a simple, and it's possible to simplify what at the moment can be so very complicated and take weeks and weeks and weeks to achieve. What we're trying to achieve with Silas is that model that can be done very, very quickly. Get the search from the right place to start with at the right time. That speeds everything up. We put it in progress with what Silas is actually putting together as well. And in fact, we've got a very, very effective model there that will help everybody and do it at the right price, and do it also, more importantly, in a far, far better time frame than is otherwise available.
Well, thank you for that, Hamish, and from you, Silas. And let this be a siren call to all of you out there who watch us regularly, and those who don't, welcome. Please be aware this is but one of 4 property-based podcasts that we run. The first one's on Tuesday, which is called Property Matters, hones in on very specific areas of property. This is IPSA Kind of Magic, which is all to do with searches and the relevance of searches and monitoring and managing those searches. Remember that IPSA, which is an association of independent personal search agents, they focus in the form of a cooperative where they look after each other's best interests. So if you want someone in Stoke, if you're buying a property in Stoke and you want search done on that, the Stoke-related person will be there. If you want someone in Bicester who knows the area down there, you'll go to Hamish and his team. And that's kind of the way it works. Their focus is to provide what's the word? Couteured, a broken down, a managed version of the data, such that you'll get what I refer to as a John Lewis style effect, where you get the best on the right information so you make the best decision. That's what I think a personal search agent should do. If you want to go with them, I would recommend taking a look. You could go with, there's always a place for factory conveyancers and so on. But if you want something that's done that is particularly focused on the local area, because the expertise is both in that area and in the authority that looks after that area, then you should go to a personal search agent. But that's my opinion. On the rest of the week, on Thursdays, sorry, we are Wednesday. On Thursdays, we have Property Quarry in the morning at 10 o'clock. Bit of a bun fight where we talk about a number of different topics. That's an evolving conversation. Do come along, hear us out. And also on Friday, arguably the most watched show we do, which is called Cladding Matters. We've had in excess of 18,000 views on the one 2 weeks ago. Please come along, be part of the discussion. We don't just talk about cladding, we talk about building safety, and we also talk about the knock-on effect, how it affects the people who are disrupted within building safety. So all of that, really interesting stuff. Do come along. But thank you once again, Silas J. All you property people out there, do check out WikiWham. It's an amazing resource. And there's lots of stuff on there, including these videos. And Hamish McClay, Search and Convey, the prime mover in getting these podcasts underway, but also the current chairman and arguably the most up for it chairman of IPSA at the moment. That's my personal opinion. Don't take my word for it, but certainly they are an excellent institution to be involved with. Many more things to come. Just checking because we've had a couple of comments come through. Wow. So here's one, which was thanks for the quality content and positivity. I enjoy watching your stream while taking my morning dump. How lovely. Well, do you know what? Rubbish in, rubbish out. That's what they say. Anyways, no, but thank you for that, Minnie. I hope you enjoyed your outpouring. Until next week, please keep your feet on the ground, keep reaching for the stars, and I would recommend that you look after your mental health, certainly in this changing world. Take care. Bye-bye now.